Chapter 2. In the beginning, our mother paints a picture with words. April-Mei. Once, when things were changeless, I was connected to everything. It was oneness and rapport all the way up, all the way down. What was to the left was the infinite right, and what was to the right was left uninterrupted for all of time. Everyone was connected same as me. We dovetailed perfectly, like the joinery that would later be seen in ancient Egyptian furniture and in those handcrafted boxes at outdoor fairs. No question, I and existence were meant for togetherness. Our utter agreement. Think the weave of a tapestry, the cooperation of a beehive, the association of a spider's web. Oh, the harmony, the beauty of it. And yet, something was missing. Space was missing. The most infinitesimal space between things. We needed that space. I needed it. The like-mindedness felt inescapable, oppressive, ordained. I could do nothing on my own. None of us could. I longed for distinction and for change. Yet we were bound and constrained in a closed set of completion and fulfillment, without independence, with nowhere to grow. Oh, what a mess infinite order can be. If someone could have heard me then, they would have heard me cry, "Unity, unity, untie me, please." I ached for separation. I wanted some space to call my own. That didn't happen, though, or nobody much listened to me. I guess everyone was having too much fun in one another's company to pay attention to individuality. Sadly, it became pointless to want anything different. So I rode along, content, driven by the family, taken wherever they were heading at whatever speed, listening to whichever music they decided to play. Here we go round the juniper bush, twinkle, twinkle, little star, or maybe one of the Pythagorean classics. It was smooth going, peace like a fog, no rush, no other possible way to be. And the day, if I may call it that, amounted to the longest day ever, with no hint or hue of it ever being done. The sun did not rise or set in those parts. The sun moved in inner circles. I held this inside movement. We all did. I knew mornings of ultimate well-being, middays of infinite outlook, and evenings of such super-duper positivity as is often expressed in joy. Ah, that was the life, or so we agreed to agree, indivisible even to mathematicians, and unaccompanied by distinguishable characters, quantum fields, or any distracting stuff. Unimaginable though it may seem, I sailed upon a waterless ocean in breathless wind, without even a boat. The sailing was everything. And like the sun, the movement lived inside me as much as I lived inside it, lively as leaves full of wind and musical as songbirds in the spring. Of course, there was no wind. There were no leaves or birds. I could not make out even the tiniest coil of spring, just the inner life of everything. And no one, not a single errant fly or stray green weed, spoke against it. I didn't speak either, and I certainly did not mean to present a complaining mood. Just, well, nothing it seemed was up to me, which troubled my mind. It was the worst thing about that undisruptible union, because I wanted to disrupt it a bit, not in a bad way, not to do it in, not to dismember it. In my imagination, by severing ties, I'd be doing unity a favor. I'd introduce separation so to encourage something even greater. Libraries, for instance. No, not libraries. Liberty. Liberty is what I mean. My own liberation to start with. My own way of going about things. My own terms of living. I didn't want to just accept the gift of life without thinking about it. Truth is, I longed to think and connect with things. I longed for something that I could move because of my own decisions. Arms or legs, a yellow ball, a stuffed gray cat, to display to the sky as I ran up and down some sun-loved hill, happy and unhindered. I longed to break from what was confining and to move toward what would ultimately be more perfect, more satisfying, more crazy, amazing, or just simply more. More is a certain increase of something, like a bit more room to move, or another way of thinking, a certain increase of someone's, too. There had to be others, separate from myself, ones to push against and prod me. It is you and you and you, as much as I could possibly meet in a day, if the day were a door and I were out and about. All the yous I could only imagine, all the yous I did not really know but wanted to. I wanted to get to know the sweet-smelling yous, the pungent yous, the cool blue yous and the fresh green yous outside of togetherness. That, I figured, would help me to become aware, super aware of things, rather than just taking them for granted, which is no way to take anything if you hope to evolve your existence. I felt it as a deep need to act on my own, free as could be, maybe even to come forth with my own take on life, to know it better. I figured, God thinks for God's self, so I too must think for myself. I must speak for myself, out of the body of discovered truth, and move of my own volition, like a work of art that springs from the spiritual. Yes, springs from the spiritual, which is a word I kept coming to as I gathered my courage. Spring. What a hopeful time to begin. I waited for it to happen. I waited for my wishes to appear, solid as earth, the real, round, self-evident earth. Earth with poles and purpose, with dells and dogs, earth with shores rising out of the life-singing seas and gentle snows falling over cedars and firs. Wishfully I waited. I had a million thoughts of glowing birthday candles, of the first star of night, of quartz rings running circles around stones, stones that I could pick from the actual ground, real life stones that I could hold and toss. It was wishes, 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 unfathomable longing, relentless striving, the desire to search and the joy of discovery. It was love, really, love aching out of my soul, acting out, craving to be, love invoking a world, conceiving a place, suggesting to each of us a space of our own, and then teaching us the role we had to play. We each had a starring role, each had work to do. We had to do that work on earth, and we had to do it not for ourselves alone, but to better understand how we are all one family. We and the bees, and the spiders, and the tired mother with 3 children, not to mention the other riders on the bus. All of us a family. It sounded good, maybe too good to be true, because I did not see any earth, not a real one I could hug. Oh, I looked for it, but it wasn't available yet to me. And if the earth wasn't available, how could I get to it? How could I get where love needed me to be? Oh, it troubled my soul to see no obtainable earth. It troubled me to no end that I couldn't begin. I could not wake, could not sleep, could not eat, could not breathe. I just couldn't. I was in such a terrible mood. I sank, unhappy to my core, unable to lift my spirit. Same time I knew that I would not give up. How could I give up the goal of a place to be myself? I would have to approach it differently, change how I thought. And so I did just that. I changed, which took work on my part and help from many far wiser than me. And I moved forward some. I slid back a bit. Forward and back, forward and back, always with confidence, though. And slowly I made my way out of what seemed to be no way. It takes a lot of optimism to make the world happen. And then I saw it. I saw a hint of the world, a blue hint, with greens and yellows, purples and peaches, very juicy peaches, ripe and ready to eat. There was one tiny blue flower blossoming within a sidewalk crack. There were green mosses in the shade, gooseberry yellows in the sun. There was a bushy red fox in the evening light, a circling black buzzard upon a clear sky. There were brown dead leaves scattered upon a lonesome road, and millions, millions of people, none who were interested in me, and only a few I would ever get to know. It was a lot to see all at once, and some of it made me sad. But it was all I really wanted, the chance to come to life out in the open, the opportunity to move with life, to move on my own terms, and maybe, if I had it in me, to make a place for love to set up shop. I as the shopkeeper, and everything for free. And thanks to my optimism, I took the hint. I hugged the world. I held it and thought it as loud as I could, as real as could be. I thought the earth and how I might come to it for the sake of love. I said things inside myself, as many things as I could think. I said, the faces of strangers, the stars in the night sky. I said, green things, bruised things, broken things, smooth. I spoke from the heart, expressing what I thought. If I were a mountaineer, love would be my climb, I said. If I were a baker, it would be my batch. Said, if I were a soup kitchen, love would be my soup du jour. And finally, though with no finality to my words, I said, if I were dissolving, slowly, slowly losing grip, uncertain of everything, afraid and alone, disillusioned by life, if I were ever down and forgetful, angry and weak, my solution would be absolute, bona fide, all-embracing love. I said all of that, speaking from the heart, knowing my heart was now with the world, knowing my heart would point me in the right direction. And I came then to a wall. It was a border between countries. I had no papers, nothing to prove myself with. Lucky for me, though, there was no guard, a door, though, whose opening fit me perfectly. And through the door, when I peeked, I saw a world that made me feel at home. I saw a street with a mailbox, and the mailbox had one of those little red metal flags that pivots up and down. And in the mailbox there were letters, coupons, flyers, and a recipe for popovers. To the left I observed a field, and in the field grew summertime, and in the summertime flowers and butterflies that danced in the breeze. Fall came as I watched, and the butterflies left and the flowers died. Winter followed, and then spring and another summer. The butterflies returned. I couldn't tell the difference between the flowers and the butterflies, which made me realize that I had lots to learn about the place. Off in the distance, there was an old brick elementary school, and beyond that a playground with a bust of Frederick Douglass and this quote, "It's easier to build strong children than to repair broken men." I couldn't really say that I knew this Douglass fellow, but I did like the quote. Down the road in the springtime, green winter wheat grew taller by the day, which gave me a hankering for fresh bread. And later, maybe August, where the land rolled gently toward the bay, I saw tall, leafy corn ripe for the harvest. Marshes spoke wherever the water met the shore. They spoke to me as I leaned and listened, though spoke isn't the right word. Grew is a better word to use in such a world as the one I saw. The grasses grew. Snails grew, too. They grew from baby snails. They grew in numbers. They climbed up the stiff green stalks of the salt water cordgrass to get out of the rising tide and closer to the sweet smell of honeysuckle along the banks. Everyone loves honeysuckle, and I noticed that I was one of that loving bunch. I leaned further into the scene to get a whiff, and almost toppled under the white-yellow trumpeting flowers. I pulled back so as not to fall, and there I stood, fixed in place at the door. And I knew that there was a choice I had to make. I had to decide whether or not to enter that world and count the snails and bake the bread. I had to decide whether or not to plunge into those flowers and breathe their honey-sweet smell. It would be beautiful. It would also be sad at times when the flowers died. It would be a lot of work to knead the bread and take hours of practice not to burn the popovers. Mostly, it would be difficult to manage all the emotions. No doubt sometimes it would seem downright impossible. What might I add with my abiding optimism to overcome those dispirited times? What might I add to the place with my interest? And what might I destroy with heavy footsteps and a clumsy personality? Would the flowers laugh at me? Would they make fun of my limp? "Please," called the trees of the world. They called to me as I leaned and listened. "Don't back away now. Flowers do not poke fun at people. They have no quarrel with you. You're delaying the inevitable." Both the deciduous and the evergreens offered these words, willows and oaks, and I didn't know all their names. "We'd give our limbs for your limp," they said. "Do you not even see the great opportunity you have?" Their words were leaves anointed with wind. Their branches were some of them high for swaying, while others were low for reaching and climbing. "Thanks," I wanted to say back, but had no speaking voice. I, thank you for... I stood at the wall, at the door in the wall, measuring what it would take and what it would mean to proceed. It would take courage, I thought. I had no idea what it would mean. But I was done with standing around, waiting to know. I was done with mere looking, done with gratitude I could not express. It was time to be local, vocal, sincere. Time to act out, to exert my will and enter in. I had the chance, the earth, I mean. There it was, right before me, like a song to take up. Lift the guitar, attune your voice, because my wish had come true, and it meant the world to me. It really was all I ever wanted. So I took it. I took up the song so I might sing. I took the opening that fit like a glove. I took to the earth because I knew it was the right move to make. I went through and arrived. And there I was flesh and blood. I lay in the place that I lay, not far from home, and I knew I had made it to the shore, breathing deeply the air to regain a sense of connection. I was outside the sheltering inside. I was myself, empty and confused and no longer magically united with everything. Before any time had passed, I sat up and looked around. I wore a shirt with stains imprinted from the grass and clay of the earth. A few birds chirped at my invasion. An insect or two whirred for whatever reason insects have for making sounds. I used to know the inner workings of things, not so much anymore. And I said to the world in a quietest voice, "None of it makes sense." Oh, I didn't really mean that. What I meant was that I am here to get to know you better. Sometimes the words just come out wrong. Still, I had arrived, a sudden woman, taking deep breaths of renewal, having hopeful feelings of all good things to come on earth. "Call me April," I told the birds. "Call me May," I told the sun. "I'm April-Mei. I'm Daisy-May, according to my long-dead father. I'm Little Scout, according to my living mother. I'm married to a birch, but not a tree, Micah, back home. To him I'm Plum, though never plump and never plumb amuck. He was home in the bedroom, his sweet, delicious form waking soon to discover that I am not there, not lying beside him, naked with strands of hair messing my face. His croissant-like curves, his honeyish skin, his buttery meltability in my mouth and arms and hands, my hands touching the warmth of his chest. How would he know where I was? How would he know that I was not far, having just arrived near the marsh? Some might call it a miracle, what had just happened. Others might call it a mistake. I call it reality, and something worthy to figure. There I appeared among the shoreline trees, Light shone upon my hands and cheeks. No longer was I being passively carried along within the living weave of life itself. I was out. I was where I could feel the sun with its rose-colored fingers. I was where I could feel its pressing and separate thoughts that vetted me for all I'm worth. The morning sun vetted and warmed me. It troubled me to wake and see. Oh, wake and see how things move on earth, said the sun. They move separate from you, and you move separate from them. Sometimes it is agreeable what you see. Sometimes it is disagreeable as to make you annoyed or troubled. So troubled you may want to stop and put your mind to rest. Regardless, do not rest for long. Keep on. Movement on earth is life made visible. Movement is the language of children. It is the language of bees talking to flowers, of leaves unwinding in the late afternoon breeze. The reliable world takes shape, your consciousness with it. All of this the sun said as I sat there, trying to make sense of the brightly spun world, trying not to forget something that some fundamental thing kept nudging and nagging me. But I couldn't remember, no matter how I tried, which frustrated and saddened me. The wonders of the world lay upon me. I didn't want to be sad. Winter was over and I was out of my limbo in a mild, messy personality in a wild, wet place. I'd arrived on the ground in a springtime mood. It was a mood of gratitude, here on earth, with the courage of my convictions, with convictions. Ha! What was I so sure of? I sat near the creek, getting my bearings, unable to move. And how'd I even get there to begin with? I should have been home. I should have been under the covers, Mike at my back, one hand on my round belly offering support, the other hand lightly grazing the bare of my leg, then wandering up to my massive breasts, brushing my nipples with his scratchy, sympathetic palm. I should have been there, turning to him, seeing the crib that he had made there in the corner of our room, seeing the morning light stream through the window to fill the room with a more typical picture. It was so unexpected where I had ended up. Just part of some crazy story. Winter was done, and what happened next was this particular spring morning on Earth. Other people had their own specific mornings. Some of those people cooked in kitchens, some stared into mirrors, others drove in cars. This morning was mine, and following it would be the rest of the day, the rest of the month, the rest of the year. Following would be the rest of my life to see where this story was going, the rest of my life, if possible, to make a difference in the world with what I might add, chapter by chapter, with what I might add, piece by piece. Why so much peace? Why so much resting? I wasn't the least bit tired. There was work to do, and I knew it. So much stuff to take care of, including the laundry. So many changes to be excited about, including the joy and exhaustion coming my way as a daughter, a woman, a lover, a mom. I needed to stand up in this world and receive my good fortune. I needed to stand and let myself go, release something to spark the moment, something to illuminate the reason I'd come here. But I inexplicably remained blissfully still. I just wasn't yet able, not quite ready, to move.